So what we'll do today is Suchen is on, and Suchen will ask, or he'll actually answer all the questions you have on automated unmerge, and we'll go deep into that. So that's today's session. And then actually this week we have another session on RIA, which is Reltio's intelligent assistant. Now that's something new. It's kind of like the Chat GPT of the documentation site. So we'll go deep into that, and that's just the beginning. So this is kind of a introductory course to RIA and what that's about. So we're excited to show you that. And then we have some new features and functionality on Reltio's UI for Data Steward. So I'm excited to come back to this particular show because we haven't done that in about a year. So we'll show some stuff there and what's coming on the Reltio UI. From my understanding, there's some really good stuff. And then we do have some training courses that are live and can be, and that's kind of this configuration stuff. So really, if you wanted to click that and take those classes, there are some classes you have to take before that. And then we'll have some stuff on Reltio's professional service and guidance. So enhance and expand there with our PS team. And then one of the things I'm pretty excited about is Deloitte's going to be doing a presentation on, and if you care about life sciences, the role of holistic patient data management and consent. Pretty exciting. It's a high-level show. And then we'll go deep into kind of, this is a little bit different as well. We have one of our partners helping with data quality with the custom Reltio UI. So they can do some custom stuff there, and they'll show you what they can do there. I didn't have a picture there. So I'm going to stop share my screen real quick. I'm going to let Suchen kind of talk a little bit about the automated unmerge and what we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Sorry, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Okay. And I'm sharing my screen here. I thought I'll do a quick recap of what this feature is about, what we talked about in the previous webinar, and then we can go over the question that was asked. I try to answer some of them, and I'll just kind of read through them and go through them so that we can kind of have a discussion over those questions and take any new questions that you might have. The automated unmerge, this is something that we released a couple of releases back, and we are kind of going in a more controlled fashion here for automated unmerge. What this functionality does is basically automatically detects the entities that are eligible for unmerge because the underlying merge record do not meet the matching requirement anymore, and they should be automatically unmerged, right? So it detects such records and it unmerges those records that do not meet the matching criteria anymore. So that's what this does, right? Of course, the benefit of this one is, a lot of manual work can be eliminated, which you are required to do today by locating these records and then unmerging and things like that. Then we talked about, some of the high level, how it works and what the key benefits, things like that. I'm going to skip that. I showed a short demo on this one, and I do have the same record still in the tenant, which we can go over if required. And we also talked about some of the technical configuration and usage kind of thing. So this is something I want to reiterate. Like I mentioned, that we started in 2023.3 with a very basic functionality, which is just to kind of detect anything that is eligible for unmerge and just unmerge it, right? Something like even the manually merge record, if they do not align with automatic match rule, they will get unmerged as well. That was in 2023.3. And we in 24.1 we introduced sort of more controls that allows you to kind of introduce retain conditions, which allowed you to basically tell system that you are okay to unmerge this, but do not unmerge that, right? So that was something that we introduced in 24.1. one of those things that we introduced in the retain condition was manually merge records. If you do not want the manually merged records to be unmerged, then you can, or basically right now it is a default configuration. So we do not unmerge manually merge record by default. You can override that functionality. You can say that you want to unmerge those records by configuring it that way. Then we also enhance the batch unmerged entities. What this job does is basically it scans through your tenant and it again detects and unmerges the record based on your configuration. Now, the real-time unmerge works only on the data change. If there's a record change, then the unmerge will be evaluated only for that data change. So this batch job allows you to scan through the entire tenant and see if there are any records that needs to be unmerged. And we also introduced the reporting mode here, which just does the reporting of the count and not go through the unmerged activity or action. Uh, so these are some of the improvements that we did in 24.1. So this is how the configuration looks like. You can see here there is a unmerge section. That is all you have to put, and enable equals to true, and it basically will start detecting and unmerging. You have these retain conditions that you can put in for retaining based on the source system, retaining based on the manually merged or not, and retaining based on any additional match rule that you want us to consider. Yeah. Yeah, this was just a demonstration of two records basically coming together, or three here in this case, and then one of the record changes name or something like that. I think that's what, yeah, here you can see Bob, and Robbie, and one of the record was changed to David, and yeah, sorry, Mark 2, and that was unmerged automatically. So that was a demonstration that we had. So I will go to the question section here. Okay, so these are the questions that we could not answer in the last call. So we thought we'll have this session and provide this option for us to kind of, discuss and answer some of these questions. So what happens in case a business name actually change and the name change is real change? Ideally, one would want to keep the merge record as it is. So I think this is a choice here, right? If you do not want such unmerges to happen, then you can introduce a rule which will basically say that if record matches on something else but differs on the name, you still want us to keep that. Otherwise, Unmerge will see this as a organization name change, and if organization name is must have for automatic merges, then it will be automatically unmerged. So the short answer is you can control it to keep the business name even if it is different from the merged record, right? And I can demonstrate how it can be done. The next one, is there a corresponding potential unmerge similar to potential match? We currently don't have that. And we briefly talked about this in the last call where I said what we are thinking about is basically introducing a new unmerge kind of rule where you can define the condition and you can say, do not automatically unmerge this one, just flag it for me, or create a task for me, or do something which will allow me to search for such records and decide whether you want to go through the unmerge or not, like accept the unmerge or reject the unmerge. Currently, we don't have this functionality, but we do have a plan to introduce this one in near future. Can you prevent the auto unmerge applied to manual merges? So by default, manually merged records do not get unmerged, right? And you can control this one as well. Are you considering adding discrete reports on the UI? This is similar to what I just answered. So I'm going to keep going down. How would this unmerge work for different values in a different crosswalk? As you have two entities where they merge based on the OV true, but we change some contributor data that isn't OV true. Would that still trigger an unmerge? So I want to explain this, how the unmerge works, right? Let's go to this record. And let's look at the crosswalk. So what it does basically, it doesn't matter whether the data was changed or the OV value was changed or not. Anytime there is an update to the record, it looks at all these contributors. In this case, there are two. This is not seen as a contributor because this is just the cleanse function data, which was generated by LTO. So this one is seen as a crosswalk or contributor, and this one is seen as another contributor. So we just take these two contributor, treat them as independent entities in memory, and basically we just run the matching on this one, and they have their respective OV values, right? When they are pulled apart. So when we run them through the matching, and if the result come back as they should be merged using one of the automatic match rule, then they stay together. If after going through all the match rules, if it does not match on any of the automatic match rules, then they get pulled apart. That's how it works. So going back to this question, uh, it will depend on what the OV value is going to be when you look at that one individual contributor.
Hey, quick question. Wouldn't the reporting effectively be the potential unmerge?
What's the question? Sorry, I didn't follow
Yeah,
that.
no, so Gino mentions, wouldn't the reporting effectively be the potential unmerge?
You
Yes,
you had a
that is
question before
yes.
that, hey, do we have potential on merge? And I was thinking that would be effectively.
That is correct. Yes, but with the current functionality we have in the reporting mode is that it just provide you the count. It does not give you the complete list of URIs. That's
Oh,
why. But yeah,
gotcha.
you are
Okay.
right. We are going to extend that, which will provide you the complete list of URI. So that will be your phase one of potential unmerge. You can look at that list and you can then decide whether you want to unmerge or not. But the second phase will be like, a way to flag this record, for example, and just call out exactly which crosswalk is eligible to be pulled out.
Got it. Another question in the chat.
Yeah.
If we're having two records, say A and B, both are having suspect match,
Mhm.
we have unmerged those records, and later, due to some value change, if it is again satisfying auto match rule, then will it match again?
Yes. So if you have unmerged those records, you have to make sure that I'll show you here. If you have unmerged them, they get registered here, meaning if I pull out one of these crosswalks from the UI or using API, using this unmerge functionality, this will become a separate entity with this entity ID. And you will see that under this not a match list here. It will be listed here. What it does by default, when you do it from the UI or by data steward, it keeps those records apart forever. The idea there was data steward has reviewed this one and decided that this two record are not the same person or same organization or whatever that entity type is, and they should be different. And it stays here forever. But if you change your mind, there is a action item or action button here which allows you to reset the matching. You can say reset this one and see if it matches with any other entity or with the same entity again because something has changed. So unless you reset that, it won't automatically merge again. But if you do reset that, then it basically becomes eligible for matching again.
Yeah, thank you. So another question. When two records are merged but after some update, these are automatically unmerged, will the update time change for both of the records?
Yes, because so automated unmerge does not have any separate functionality. This is just basically detection and then triggering the already existing unmerged functionality. So today's unmerge functionality, when you unmerge something, you are technically changing the record, right? So right now, if I pull this crosswalk out, this crosswalk could be taking away the OV value of this consolidated record. So the last update date on both these records will change.
Thank you. I think that's it for that.
Okay. All right. Let me keep going here. How about those entity? Okay, so this was basically talking about profile with two addresses and profile two with one address, which is same as one of the profile. After a split or unmerged, the common address needs to be split too. Who will get the original ID? Who will get new ID? So again, going back to this record here, let's say this record, this Mike car wash and the other Mike car wash had multiple addresses. When we unmerge, we maintain the link between their original association with the addresses. So if the first address came from my car wash and the second and the third came from Guitar Center, then those addresses will be kind of unmerged as well, and they will go to their respective original entities. But if you have created a new address after they were merged, that new address always gets attached to this entity ID, which is a surviving ID. So I can see that it's this one, so it will go with the my car wash. So that is only the new record that gets added on top of this one, right? But if you explicitly tie to this crosswalk, then, oh, sorry, this one, then even after unmerge, it will go with the Guitar Center here. Okay.
Great.
All right.
We have a couple more questions in the chat.
Sure.
So, do we have some sort of a report that shows all the records that were unmerged as part of the recent data load?
So you have this bulk unmerge in the report mode that you can run. I'll have to check whether we have a date that we can provide to run the report, like for only those records that was changed between certain time range or whatnot.
Yeah.
If not, then
It's
that is something
Suchen.
that we will need. Yeah.
I think you can just query that through the audit log, right? You search for unmerges by the person who loaded the file within a time range, right?
No. I think the question was if I load some data which changes, out of 15 million records, it changes only 10,000 records. Yeah. How do I get the report on those only 10,000 records or something that was changed in just last 24 hours or whatever? If I want to run the report only on that. So my bulk and merge, let's try that.
It's an idea.
Oh yeah, I will get back to on that. But yeah, what will happen is the bulk and merge job that we have, we can run that in a timestamp, and you can say run this report only on those entities that was changed in last 24 hours or in last 1 month and things like that. So that's how you would do it.
Great. We have some more questions, so I'm going to start asking the ones in the chat
Sure.
because all these have already been answered.
Yeah.
Will it impact Reltio load date also? And can you please help me to understand how Reltio load date change?
Yeah. So we have 3 dates here, actually 4 for every crosswalk. 4 dates: create date, update date, Reltio load date, and delete date. Right? If you delete this crosswalk, that's the 4th date that you will have. So we have create date, which is basically the creation when this record was created or this crosswalk was created. Load date and update date. This is basically when the request or source system basically initiated the request, and for some slowness in the platform here, or there was a large data load and this record was just kind of sitting there in the queue for some time, which is why it got delayed here. Yeah, that's what happened probably here, which is what it tracks. So relative load date is always the date when the changes were applied to the primary storage. And update date is basically that the date that you can provide, and you can say this is when it was changed in my source system, and you want to track it. Doesn't matter when it got to the Reltio tenant. So those are the two dates that we allow you to kind of provide. This is Reltio generated date, which is a system time. This is also a system time, and update date is user provided or system provided date. Yep.
So this one's related to Unmerge or Auto Unmerge. What is the attribute field that we would reference to ensure exports get triggered correctly and downstream apps can have appropriate info propagated?
Okay, so this is so auto unmerge, like I said, right? This is not a new event or new functionality that we have introduced on the action part. This is just a detection that we have kind of introduced, and we are still using the underlying unmerge functionality, which was always in the platform. So the event that you should be looking for is the entity unmerge or split and event. That's what you should be looking for to kind of detect that unmerge was performed.
Okay. Will the automatic unmerge process mark records as not a match?
No. So this is where we have, this is the only difference in the behavior. When automated unmerge does the unmerge, we reset the match so that it can immediately go and match with the right candidate if there is one. So if data steward does it, then it is always marked as not a match and it stays there, like I mentioned, until it is reset. But automated unmerge will always automatically remove this not a match, and it immediately becomes eligible for matching with the same record or with any other record.
Okay. Could you comment on Reltio Salesforce connector impact? So we would have deleted a merge in Salesforce. How would unmerge have affect such a entity?
Yeah, so this is one use case that we have not kind of fully tested, and we have called this out on our documentation that connector part is something that we are still working on.
Okay.
But there was a customer basically who wanted to kind of try that, and what we have done is we have introduced this retain condition so that if you do not want that data to be touched and you want to use this unmerge for everything else, you can provide that. So if you say Salesforce in the retain condition, um, this will allow you to basically maintain the backward compatibility of all Salesforce interaction with Reltio, at the same time take care of the unmerge of any other source system. And we'll kind of test out the Salesforce connector and other connectors that we support and provide that clarification. But at this point of time, the way it would work is like, if you delete something, then that will trigger the unmerge evaluation. And if it is eligible for unmerge, it will go and unmerge as well. It doesn't matter which source system it comes from, unless it is not listed under the retain condition.
Okay. So when investigating the auto unmerge results, how do you tell which crosswalk the address came from?
So yeah, basically what we are doing here That's a very good question, and I say that because when we were designing this one, that was one of the challenges that we had. The question is, if this one had three addresses, how do I know which addresses belong to which crosswalk here, right? So, like I said, when we merge, we always maintain the lineage between the entity and their related entities, right? Which is address in this case, how they came and so that we can revert them back when the unmerge happens. So there is something called as a loser relationship ID that allows us to basically grab the addresses that belongs to that entity. So when we unmerge them actually, or when we pick them for evaluation, we know exactly which addresses came from this crosswalk versus this other one. So yeah, we do maintain that information, which allowed us to kind of run this evaluation on their original state.
Great. I feel like you know your stuff today. That's really good. Can automatic unmerge be limited to a specific source or sources?
Yeah, so that was another thing. While designing, we thought we will make this as a sort of inclusion kind of design, which means just include the source system that you want us to evaluate, right? But that could be a long list of source system for some many customers. If you have like 13, 14 source system, then you have to list all of them. So the way it works right now, it's exclusion, meaning list what you do not want us to evaluate, and it will leave those records out. So the way you would achieve this, what you're asking here, is limiting to a specific sources is by listing everything that you do not want Unmerged to touch and leave everything that you want us to consider.
Okay. How is this functionality? How does it work if match IQ is used? I guess the same way as regular match rules. So just confirm his understanding.
Yeah, so that's where this second retain condition comes into play. Um, what this does is basically by default, when the unmerge is evaluated, it looks at that two crosswalks and it runs through all the automatic match rule to see if does it match on automatic rule number one. If the answer is no, it moves on to the second rule and check if it matches on automatic rule number two. If it doesn't match on the second one as well, and there is no other automatic match rule, it just goes and unmerge. But if you have a retain condition, which can be anything, it does not have to be automatic match rule, it can be suspect as well. It will evaluate this one as well in this case because it's in a retain condition, and it will evaluate this rule. And if this one comes out as true, then it does not unmerge. So what you'll do here is you will list your match IQ as one of the rule here, and that will prevent it from unmerging the match IQ merge records.
Great. Is there a way to find out how many records got unmerged?
Uh, the way you would do that is, let me see if I've configured that. If not, then I'll just walk you guys through it. So through activity, yeah, I don't have it here. Maybe let's see. Yeah, here. You can see here, this one has a, it captures, when it was merged, when it was unmerged. So we track this at the end, at the tenant level as well. You can go to the activity log and you can say, show me all the profiles that was unmerged in last 24 hours or 30 days or whatever, and it will show you that list here. There is no option to download that entity IDs from here. But yeah, this is how you would do it. You'll go to the activity log, which you can configure on the dashboard, and you can extract that list from there.
Great. So I realize we're discussing unmerge, and related to propagating data downstream, if we merge, will the same attribute fields referenced for unmerge be used to ensure we trigger exports for downstream?
Let me understand this question. So basically, are you talking about, and you can feel free to
Unmute, yeah.
unmute yourself and kind of elaborate on this question, but you have some process built which tracks the attribute that is used in the merging, and when those things change, you have the integration process over there. Is that right?
Well, 2 points. I mean, you referenced earlier when we did the unmerge, in order to successfully inform consuming applications of a split that we've done, you referenced a couple of attributes, a couple of fields that we key in on to ensure that an export occurs, so that
Mhm.
downstream applications receive the correct information.
Mhm.
So now, if we flip it around and we merge records, I wanted to determine what is the attribute field that we reference to ensure that the downstream applications, which prior to us merging had 2 separate records, and now we're trying to inform the downstream applications, we are now merging 2 records.
Mhm. Yeah. So there is a merge event as well. I think it is. Okay. Let's look at this. It's giving me a lot of other options here, but let me talk through this. So you have this entities merged event that will be triggered, which will have the list of those 2 entities that came together as part of automatic merge, or if somebody manually merged it. So that will be your basically indicator that 2 records that downstream had as independent records is now merged into one single one.
Thank you.
So if you exclude retained source 1, and if source 2 is merged with source 1, then will source 2 be unmerged?
Yes. So we don't, yeah, we evaluate. Okay, let me see. Source 1 was in retain. No, not in this case. So basically, we check to see if a record has at least one of the source system that is from the retain condition. We just leave that record alone, unless if there was a third record source which was from source 3, let's say, and source 2 and source 3 came together, and source 3 record was changed, then that record comes out. Basically, it's like a tree, right? So you have A matched with B, and so this is from source 1, this is from source 2, and this is from source 2 again. If C changes, then we take out C. But if A changes, then we don't take out A. So basically, it's trying to, and by the way, it will also evaluate to see if A and B are still going to be match of each other if we take out C. If they're not, then we don't touch this record as well. So in your scenario, if this was a requirement, sorry, if this is a scenario, you have source 1 and source 2, A and B record, and source 1 is in retain condition, we leave this record alone. We don't touch this.
Okay. We might come back to yours, Max. I know we answered it a little bit ago, but we could still come back. How does auto unmerge evaluate manual merges?
Yeah. So let me go back here. Okay. So as you can see here, this one basically, this one has, it says there's a IRS admin or automatic merge tracking. So it tracks who did the merge. Is it system or is it a user? So if it was done by user, if this tree has any crosswalk that was brought in by as a result of manually merged record, then we do not touch that record. So to answer your question, we have the history of the merges that we look at and see if there is at least one manually merged record in there, then we don't touch that record.
Okay. So going back, so I know you answered this question, but if you could answer it again. When investigating the auto unmerged results, how do you tell which crosswalk the address came from again?
Yeah, I think I answered that, and we have the lineage of the original association of the address to their respective contributor, which is basically this ID. So if there are multiple addresses, then it will be tied to either this ID or the other ID, which is a loser ID in this case, is this one, because I know this is a winner ID, which matches with this ID here. So the addresses are always tied to, or any relationship attribute for that matter, is always tied to their underlying original IDs.
I still don't see how you're doing that. How are you seeing that it's associated with the original ID?
So let me explain it here. So E1 is my entity ID, and I have my address 1. I have my address 2 again, and this is my E1. And let's say this is my address 3. So this E1 represents the URI of the entity 1, and E2 represents the URI of entity 2, and A1 represents the URI of the location ID, and this is again A2 and A3. So what we have is when you have E1 associated with A1, we have R1 here, which is a relationship ID. And then we similarly have R2, and this one will be R3, because relationship IDs are always unique across. So when this record get merged, the data that you will see in the system will look something like this. Now, this will change to E1, let's say because E1 survives. But you will notice that this one does not change here, right? In this case, this will be, 1 second, this will be R4. And there is R3 with A3, and this is E2, and this will be in the deactivated kind of, let me, like that. Okay, so this will be deactivated, but we still keep track of it. So when we look at the unmerge, we look at this deactivated record as well, or this association. That's how we know that A3 is part of E2, which is what we have here, which is this ID here. So that's how we know. And you can get this information too. If you do get relationship on this loser ID, it will tell you that it is originally associated with E2.
Can you see those relationship IDs in the interface anywhere? So any way to identify in the interface?
Yeah, not the loser one. You will only see the winner one.
And how do you do that?
Yeah, let me activate that. Oh, sorry. It's in the wrong tenant. Okay, there it is. Let's go to organization here, and I'm going to activate this. Wait, give it a minute there, and I'll come back to it. So you will see the relationship IDs as one of the tabs here, and that's what you will see. But you would not see the deleted IDs or the inactivated IDs, and those are soft deleted ones. They are not like hard deleted, so we can still access them.
Okay, all right, that's helpful, thank you.
Yep.
I wanted to check if we were building a new project setup on Reltio, then do we have any checklists or documentation which we can refer to so that we're not going to miss anything on requirements gathering, merges, unmerges, survivorship, configuring, Reltio setup? Is there any?
Yeah. So we do have some guidelines, some checklists, and what I would suggest is like you can just ask this question on the community. One of our PS Reltio professional services team members should be able to kind of point you to that, or reach out to you and help you with that.
Yeah, I have something that I'm looking for now that I think is going to be helpful. Sarah did a show.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I just want to go back to that previous question, and I think the deployment or the publish is done. So we should see the relationships here. And so this is the address, and you will see the reference, sorry, the relationship ID is over here. That's your relationship ID. Yeah. So as you can see, since it is coming from this both source system, or basically those two different IDs, it is maintaining those different relationship ID. That's how we know both those records have the same or pointing to the same entity, location entity, which is this address here. So this is that ID that I was talking about, which is R1, R2.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So I want to go back here and just talk about one other thing that we have that we are working on. So retain manual merges is, like I said, it is true by default, which means we will always retain the manually merged records. We will not touch that. We will not evaluate unless this property is set to false here. And if you want to undo everything that data stewards have done for whatever reason, and you want to go back to how it was before a data stewards started manually merging them, you can set this to false, and only those records which meets the automatic match condition will stay together, and everything else will be pulled apart. So we are working on similar functionality for merge on the fly or merge by crosswalk functionality. What that means is like, you can merge records without using match rule by simply providing the crosswalk of already existing record, which means if I had just this record, and let's say this record was nothing or is not similar to this other record, but for some reason that this is the same record as the other one, you can completely bypass the matching engine and simply provide the source system information of the existing record in the request body of this record here, with the contributor request to set to true for this using this record. So basically it's a lookup kind of thing. Look up this record using this crosswalk information and simply attach this new crosswalk to that. That's what it means, which is merging by crosswalk. Today, those records are unmerged by default, and we realize that that is also should be treated as a manual merge. It is just that humans not doing it. It was some system or some integration layers doing it, right? So we are going to introduce that, and that is also something that will be available very shortly.
So is it possible to search in the Reltio UI with relationship ID?
No, you cannot search on relationship ID, but you can search if you configure that as a reference attribute, like not the ID though, but like this one is a reference attribute. Sorry, related entity. So I've configured that as a reference attribute. Now I can use the attribute of this related entity and search it using this reference attribute. But you cannot use the ID itself, which is a relationship ID for searching on the UI.
Okay. So can we configure this manual merge retention using Reltio UI?
No, that is also something that we currently do not support. This can be done only through L3 at this point of time. That is something we will also support through this data modeler in the near future. So you'll see somewhere, go to the data entity types. We are currently working with organization. Sorry. And you will basically go and click here. This is where you will see that option to unmerge configuration, right? So it's not in this application yet, but that is something that we'll be adding in the near future.
Okay. Do you have a release date to unmerge by crosswalk that you just described?
Yes, that is before 2024.2 June. In fact, actually, we might be able to release it much sooner than that. In a couple of weeks, or maybe even sooner than that. It's
Don't get us so
like,
excited, man. You know, like.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are like I said, right? This is we started in 23.3 with a very basic version. We added more controls. We are going to add more controls. The idea here is to give you give our customer kind of the flexibility to choose the data set that you want to use Unmerge for. So you'll see more feature coming into this feature. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest in this, and you know, I'd be very interested in the next few weeks, month, too, how many of folks that are on the call today actually
Yeah.
using auto unmerge, and then going deeper into that. So maybe you and I can, you know, maybe it's May or June, kind of go a little bit
Yeah.
deeper into this and what's come out
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, and using this combination of retain condition, right? This already gives you a lot of flexibility. So imagine if you want to unmerge just one source system at this point of time, you can list all other
Mhm.
source systems here, and then you can also list all the additional match rules that you do not want us to kind of consider, and you can go after a very tiny list of entities just for testing purpose, and then slowly kind of take out this one source system at a time and expand that, and move around and kind of cover more and more use cases, or let Unmerge handle more and more sources systems, right? So that is the idea here, and more retain condition will come. One other candidate that is definitely looking very good to be in the near future is a potential Unmerge, which you might have guessed that there's a lot of interest there. Ability to see that from the UI for customers to kind of review them and decide whether to accept the Unmerge or not. Yeah, so a lot of stuff, yeah, to be added.
A lot of great stuff, and this wasn't even a demo, and you showed us a bunch of stuff on the system here, so it was really cool. Really appreciate it. Is there any other questions before we, or any other thoughts, Suchin, before we kind of?
Yeah, we'll just kind of open it up and see if anybody wants to ask anything. Otherwise, yeah, I'll just kind of summarize what is coming next, or what is that we have seen other customers do. I can just spend like 5 minutes talk about that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, feel free to ask any question that you might have. If you don't want to type in the chat, you can feel free to ask. And
Yeah, there's no more questions at the moment, but
okay, so like I said, right, what some of the customers are doing right now is just list all the source systems that you're currently loading data for, and take out any of the one of the source system, which is a really small data set or whatnot, and try to build a rule in addition to the automatic match rule. And this could be a potential match rule, right? Like a suspect, it's not going to do, or it is not going to have any impact on your merge outcome or the match outcome, right? It is just going to generate some additional potential matches. You can list them here. So this just gives you a control set that you can play around with. But I would definitely encourage, do not go with like, enable true and leave all of this out. It's just going to go after your entire data set, right? Just to test it out, have as many retain condition as you can, get comfortable with the feature, let us know if there is something that we can add, improve in the existing retain condition, and we can improve from there. And if you feel comfortable with that tiny set of data that we are unmerging it correctly, whatnot, then you can slowly expand and start taking out stuff from the retain merge condition, which means you're allowing automated unmerge to take on more work and let data steward basically focus on something else. So I would definitely encourage everyone to try this and let us know the feedback, if there are any issues, any improvements that we can, in addition to what we have already discussed. And all these questions that was asked today, we'll try to create a AHA request. We'll invite everyone to kind of come and vote on those, because that will help us kind of understand what is that we should go after first based on the voting system. Like, what is the number one priority for most of our customer. So we'll look out for that, or you can go and create your own idea ticket as well.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Suchen, thank you so much. We'll be seeing you again in the next month or so once you and I kind of collaborate a little bit more on the next show on something a little different. But until then, thank you everyone for coming to today's Ask Me Anything. We